Greetings and welcome to another episode of the TED in Your Head podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Ted Moreno. I am a certified clinical hypnotherapist and high performance coach, helping people to think better, feel better, do better, and be better generally. So, we're talking about transformational change, and hypnotherapy is a powerful tool to make that happen. Before I go any further, I want to thank you for tuning in to this podcast, for watching this video, for reading the text of this particular podcast. Whether you're a regular listener or a first time listener, or you're a client, previous or current, if you're tuning into this podcast in any way, shape, or form, I really want to give you my appreciation. When I started this podcast, I wanted it not only to be a way to get my name and what I do out there, but I really wanted it to be helpful. So thank you so much for tuning into this podcast today. I really, really appreciate it. So the title of this podcast is A New Direction. I've been thinking a lot about this podcast and where I want to take it. It's been about a month since I've done a podcast, and I needed some time to kind of think about what I wanted to do with this podcast. So what I've been doing, if you don't know already, is I've been doing a lot of how to overcome anxiety, how to deal with test anxiety, how to overcome lack of confidence, self-esteem, all of those kind of things. And I think that's been helpful. If you want that information, you can certainly get it from my podcast, and I will continue to do podcast episodes about those topics. But a lot of that information you can get on the internet. Heck, you could type in, how do I overcome test anxiety? And AI will give you a lot of good information about that. But what I want to do is I want to take this podcast in a new direction because, to be kind of honest with you, I was getting a little bit kind of bored with what I've been doing. So I took some time off, took a month off to think about what I want to do next. And what I would like to do is get a little more deeper into who do we need to be to face the challenges of life. But not only that, but who do we need to be to really experience life at a higher level with more excitement, more energy, more juice, if you will. So I want to address some of the essentials, some of the essential aspects of life, such as who do we need to be in the face of our own aging, in the face of seeing our parents age. And this is an important topic to me at this point in my life. The loss of loved ones or the impending loss of loved ones. So instead of people coming to me after these things happen and saying, I'm really struggling with the loss of that, how do we go into these situations not being so knocked down? In other words, how do we constitute ourselves to be up for these challenges of life? How do we manage to find the time to maintain our own self-care, to maintain our energy, to take care of ourselves? Life is so busy, and if you're not used to exercising or a higher level of self-care, how do we wrap our head around what that looks like? How about money? How do we deal with the money thing in the face of economic uncertainty, or a lot of pundits out there saying we're headed for a recession or higher prices? I've got some kids going into college. That is definitely on my mind. Taking care of vehicles, mortgage, rent. How do we avoid worrying or having anxiety about money? I think this is a very important question because money is an important situation that we have to deal in our lives today. But I just don't want to talk about challenges. The question I really want to ask is, how can we make life worth living in the face of life in 2025, whether you're in the United States or another country listening to this podcast? How do we live life in a way that's exciting? How do we maintain the wonder, the awe, the excitement of life rather than allowing ourselves to get ground down by the constant amount of things we need to think about, worry about, or be concerned about? Helen Keller said that life is either an exciting adventure or it's boring. I don't think many of us see life as an exciting adventure if, you have a job you have to go to, or you're not independently wealthy, or you have kids, right? Life can become a real grind. How do we maintain that sense of wonder or awe? George Bernard Shaw said, life is not about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself. How do we continue the process of self creation on a daily basis? What does that even look like? I think a lot about a guy like David Bowie, the musician, the rock star David Bowie. I think he's an example of somebody that was continually looking to recreate himself, right? Started off as, Ziggy Stardust, then went on to like the Thin White Duke. Then, he continued to present himself in new and exciting ways. And I don't think you need to be a rock star to be actively involved in the act of self-creation. But again, what does that look like? And how do we find the time to do that? And does it mean, getting a new wardrobe every 2 or 3 years? I don't think so. But how do we continue to live life in a way that's inspiring and creative, right? If there's no creativity, if there's no novelty, that's when we get burned out. That's when we lose interest. That's when we start turning to things to numb ourselves. So I think this is a very important question. I also want to talk to experts. I want to have a lot more conversations, a lot more interviews, asking people, how do you keep from being overwhelmed? I think overwhelm is one of the biggest problems in our life today. Too many things to think about, too many things to do, too many things to worry about, right? I mean, think about it. I mean, here I am, I'm a 65-year-old guy in the United States, 2025. I've got money to think about. I've got a mortgage. We're a three-car household and another driver's coming online, insurance, retirement, Medicare, parents. How do you deal with all of that without going crazy, without wanting to immediately come home and pour yourself a drink or take yourself a toke, right? These are the questions that people are coming to me for. How do I maintain staying out of trance? How do I maintain not sinking into despair or worry? Who do I need to be? How do I constitute myself to be a person that is awake, aware, and intentionally living life? I think that's a big question because really, when overwhelm gets its fangs into us, then we're fearful. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is truly the biggest problem of our time. Fear. Fear of what's going to happen, fear of what's not going to happen, fear of getting old, fear of dying, fear of losing the people that we love, fear of what's going to happen with the economy. And there's a lot of fear right now at this particular point in time, not only because of what's going on in the government, but also the pace of change is so incredibly fast. Things are changing so quickly. How do we even keep up? I mean, you know, I'm looking at having to get a new computer. That, I was talking to a client the other day, even getting a new phone, that could be incredibly stressful. What do we do? How do we do it? How do we maintain our stability, our feeling of being grounded, and really having the confidence and trust that we're able and up for taking on life in all its myriads of joys and challenges in 2025? And I want to hear from you. I really want to hear from you. What's keeping you up at night? What are you struggling with? What do you think you've nailed down? What do you think you have dialed in? I really want to hear from you. And I think one of the things that's that's really become very problematic for me is I'm not hearing from the listeners of my podcast. So I want to let you know that you can leave comments at SoundCloud at tedmoreno.com/podcast. If you go to the transcript of this podcast, which is at tedmoreno.com/blog, you can leave a comment on the text or transcript or blog post. And of course, you can always go to my Facebook page or Instagram page to leave comments about how you feel about any particular podcast or what you'd like to hear. I really want to hear more about what you think about the things that I'm talking about. So there you go. That's what I'm thinking about these days. I'm thinking a lot about, personally for me, the next 10 years. What do I want the next 10 years to look like? Not just my own business, but how creative do I want to be? What do I want to continue to bring to the world? I'm 65 years old. I figure I've got another 10 years of creativity and able to make my own unique contribution. Retirement is not really a word that I want to talk about or deal with because I want to continue to reinvent myself and bring more good stuff to the world. So that's what I'm thinking about, and I want to share that with you. And of course, if you want to share something with me, I'm totally open to that. You can go to tedmoreno.com/contact. You can send me an email about your thoughts. And of course, you can send me an email if you are interested in a half-hour phone consultation where we can talk about working together, doing hypnotherapy, and your particular situation. We'll answer your questions. And if you're ready, we can set up an appointment. So, thank you so much again for listening and take good care of yourself. And we'll talk again very, very soon. Have a great day. Bye now.